What is up, YouTube? This is X-Man 1991 coming to you back again with another sports topic. I got 4 games I'm going to do a recap on, and then I got to do this rant as well, celebrating the 50th birthday of my favorite wrestler of the Ruthless Aggression era. I will let you know who that wrestler is as soon as we get done doing a recap of these games. Let me get this set up and then we'll get started. So the first game we're going to do a recap on is my Houston Rockets versus the San Antonio Spurs. Rockets lost by deuce in the first quarter, 25-23. But they made a comeback in the second quarter by deuce, 29-27. At halftime, the score was tied at 52. Rockets outscored the Spurs by 7 in the third quarter, 31-24. After the third quarter, Rockets 83, Spurs 76. Rockets lost by 7 in the fourth quarter, 35-28. At the end of regulation, the score was tied at 111, and they took the game to overtime. The Rockets lost by 4 in the fourth quarter, or at overtime, 15-11. Final score: San Antonio Spurs 126, Houston Rockets 122 at overtime. The Spurs are now 1-1 as the Rockets fall to 0-2. Their first game at the crib is tomorrow, taking on the Golden State Warriors. Devin Vassell was the player of the game with 25 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists. Victor Wembanyama needed 9 more assists to go with a triple-double. 21 points, 12 rebounds, and 1 assist. Alperen Sengun needed 3 more assists to go with a triple-double. 25 points, 14 rebounds, and 7 assists. Fred VanVleet needed 2 more rebounds to go with a triple-double. 12 points, 8 rebounds, and 24 points, 8 rebounds, and 12 assists. Next, the Golden State Warriors versus the Sacramento Kings. The Warriors lost by 5 in the first quarter, 29-24. But they made a comeback in the second quarter by 8, 36-28. With the Warriors leading 60-57 at halftime. The Warriors outscored the Kings again by 8 in the third quarter, 39-27. The Warriors leads 99-84 after the third quarter. The Warriors lost by 7 in the fourth quarter, 30-23. Final score: Golden State Warriors 122, Sacramento Kings 114. Both teams are now 1-1. Tomorrow night, like I said, it's the Warriors and the Rockets. Of course, Steph Curry was the player of the game with 41 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists. CP3 Chris Paul needed 2 more rebounds to go with a triple-double. 10 points, 2 rebounds, and 12 assists. Domantas Sabonis needed 3 more assists to go with a triple-double. 19 points, 18 rebounds, and 7 assists. Next, the Miami Heat versus the Boston Celtics. The Heat outscored the Celtics by Tress in the first quarter, 28-25. But they lost by 8 in the second quarter, 35-27. At halftime, Celtics 60, Heat 55. The Heat outscored the Celtics by 4 in the third quarter, 33-27. After the third quarter, Heat 88, Celtics 87. The Heat lost by 9 in the fourth quarter, 32-23. Final score: Boston Celtics 119, Miami Heat 111. The Celtics are undefeated 2-0 as the Heat fall to 1-1. The Heat has another game tonight against the Timberwolves. Derek White was the player of the game with 28 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists. Drew Holiday needed 3 more assists to go with a triple-double: 17 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists. One more game to do a recap on. The Toronto Raptors versus the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls beat the Raptors by 6 in the first quarter, 24-18. Matter of fact, they dominated the first half. They outscored them by 1 point in the second quarter, 18-17. Halftime, Bulls 42, Raptors 35. The Bulls lost by 10 in the third quarter, 33-23. After the third quarter, Raptors 68, Bulls 65. Bulls made a comeback in the fourth quarter by 3, 28-25. At the end of regulation, the score was tied at 93 and they took the game to overtime, with the Bulls leading by a point in overtime, 11-10. Dodging the bullet, beating the Toronto Raptors 104-103. Both teams are now 1-1. The Bulls have another game tonight in Motown against the Pistons. DeMar DeRozan was the player of the game with 33 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists. Nikolai Vucevic needed 9 more assists to go with a triple-double: 11 points, 12 rebounds, and 1 assist. Alex Caruso needed 8 more assists to go with a triple-double: 13 points, 13 rebounds, and 2 assists. Scotty Barnes from the Raptors got a triple-double: 22 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists. And former LA Laker Dennis Schroeder needed 8 more rebounds to go with a triple-double: 10 points, 2 rebounds, and 10 assists. Congrats to the Bulls and the Warriors. Tough loss for the Heat and the Rockets. Get your shit together, Heat, because y'all got the Timberwolves tonight, and you too, Rockets. Y'all got the Warriors tomorrow night. Shout out to Jaime and Katie Filer, Mike Henry, and the hosts of the Just a Little Shady podcast, Haley, Jade, and Brittany. A link to their YouTube pages will be in the description down below. And now, today's the 50th birthday of my favorite wrestler from the Ruthless Aggression era, Hassan Hammond Assad, better known by his wrestling name, Montel Vontavoius Porter, MVP. Can you believe MVP is now 50 fucking years old? I can't believe it. Let's get right into this MVP rant, man. MVP was born Alvin Antonio Berg Jr. in the Liberty City of Miami on October 28, 1973. He grew up in Opelika, Florida, and his father was a police officer. When he was 12 years old, he joined a gang. It was described as a graffiti gang, but it was later known as a street gang. He spent 6 months in juvenile detention center after a robbery. And we all know he served 9.5 out of an 18.5-year prison sentence for kidnapping and armed robbery when he was 16 years old. He converted to Islam while in prison and changed his name to Hassan Hammond Assad. Following his release from prison, MVP entered the professional wrestling business through the help of a corrections officer in his prison who also worked as a wrestler in the independent circuit. MVP began his wrestling career in 2002 and he was trained by former professional wrestlers Soman Alex G and Norman Smiley. He worked for many different companies on the independent circuit under the wrestling name Antonio Banks, including Full Impact Pro and Future of Wrestling, where he won the latter's tag team championships with Punisher. He made a special appearance in TNA and wrestled on the April 20th, or should I say 4/20, 2003 episode of TNA Explosion. He appeared on TNA again on the August 6, 2004 edition of Impact. He also wrestled for CCW, Coastal Championship Wrestling, and Elite Wrestling Entertainment in 2005, where he competed against wrestlers like Jerry Lynn and D'Lo Brown. In Coastal Championship Wrestling, he won the Heavyweight Championship on August 20th, 2005 by defeating Blackheart and Bruno Sassi in a three-way match. He signed a developable contract with the WWE in 2005 and was assigned to their developmental territory, Deep South Wrestling. He originally wrestled under his Antonio Banks name, but he later developed the Montel Vontavoius Porter MVP name. He appeared on the January 13, 2005 edition of SmackDown, playing as one of the police officers in the ring with Kurt Angle. In his WWE career, he's a two-time United States champion and a one-time tag team champion. He made his first appearance on WWE television on the August 4, 2006 edition of SmackDown. The initial angle involved MVP appearing backstage appearances and in arena crowds, talking to SmackDown General Manager Theodore Long about his contract, his agent supposedly aggressively negotiating. A video of MVP signing his contract was in a video press conference that was uploaded to WWE.com on September 26, 2006. And the contract was the largest contract in SmackDown history. MVP made his ring debut as a heel at the 2006 No Mercy, defeating Marty Garner. His entrance featured an NFL-like inflatable tunnel like you see on wrestling. Yeah, MVP's entrance is an NFL-like inflatable tunnel. And the fans were mocking his athletic suit, calling him pathetic, while the fans were chanting Power Ranger. The following episode of SmackDown, MVP demanded for a tougher opponent to prove his mental, which was answered by the Big Red Machine Kane making his SmackDown debut. These two would feud for the next 2 months, with MVP winning matches against Kane in a street fight, a steel cage match, and tag team matches with Ken Anderson, aka Mr. Kennedy, against the Brothers of Destruction, until MVP lost to Kane in an Inferno match at the 2006 Armageddon. MVP made his first WrestleMania appearance at WrestleMania 23. He challenged Chris Benoit for the United States Championship, and he lost. He lost to Chris Benoit again in a rematch for the United States title at Backlash, until he finally defeated Chris Benoit for the United States title at the 2007 Judgment Day in a 2 out of 3 falls match. MVP would hold on to the United States Championship for nearly a year, making him the third longest reigning United States champion in WWE history. He successfully defended the title against Ric Flair here in Houston at the 2007 Vengeance Night of Champions, and against Matt Hardy at the 2007 Great American Bash. Let me tell you, MVP's rivalry with Matt Hardy is fucking legendary and is so underrated. MVP and Matt Hardy got involved into many competitions, such as the football pass competition, the pizza eating competition, the chess competition, the push-up competition, basketball competition, and an arm wrestling competition. He was also scheduled to face Evander Holyfield in a boxing match, but instead he was replaced by Matt Hardy. And of course, MVP got knocked the fuck out by Evander Holyfield. It was at the Saturday night's main event. MVP and Matt Hardy would defeat Deuce and Domino for the tag team championship on an episode of SmackDown. Unfortunately, Matt Hardy challenged MVP to a United States Championship rematch on the November 16, 2007 edition of SmackDown, but MVP declined and announced they had a tag team championship match against John Morrison and The Miz. They eventually lost those titles until MVP invoked a rematch clause, but they lost the match again. MVP would attack Matt Hardy, targeting his knee, putting Matt Hardy out of action for 5 months. He defended his United States title against Rey Mysterio at the 2007 Armageddon and would lose by a countout. He challenged to end Ric Flair's career at the 2008 Royal Rumble but failed to win. He competed in the SmackDown Elimination Chamber match for the World Heavyweight Championship at the 2008 WWE Elimination Chamber, or No Way Out, and failed to win. He was eliminated by Finlay after The Undertaker chokeslammed him off the top of the chamber pod. He appeared at the Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania 24, but failed to win. He was this close to getting that briefcase until he got attacked by Matt Hardy. He lost the United States title to Matt Hardy at Backlash, ending his reign at 343 days. And like I said, it made him the third longest reigning United States champion in WWE history. He failed to regain the United States title on the May 2nd, 2008 edition of SmackDown. He defeated Jeff Hardy at the 2008 SummerSlam. But beginning on the August 29, 2008 edition of SmackDown, MVP would develop a losing streak that lasted for 5 months, losing both in singles and tag team matches. At the 2008 Unforgiven, he challenged for the WWE Championship in a championship scramble match, but he was unsuccessful, continuing his losing streak. His losing streak finally ended on the January 16, 2009 edition of SmackDown by defeating Paul White in a last man standing match thanks to the help of Triple H, turning MVP, becoming a babyface for the first time in his career. He won his second United States Championship on the 500th episode of SmackDown, defeating Shelton Benjamin. He competed in another Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania 25, but failed to win. He was drafted to the Raw brand on the April 13th, 2009 edition of Monday Night Raw. He lost the United States Championship to Kofi Kingston on the June 1st, 2009 edition of Monday Night Raw. He began a feud against Jack Swagger at the 2009 SummerSlam, which MVP won. MVP was released from his WWE contract in late 2010. He was released from his contract on December 2nd, and he lost his last match on the December 3rd, 2010 edition of SmackDown. In 2011, MVP would move on to New Japan Pro Wrestling. He then returned to TNA on the January 30th, 2014 edition of Impact, where he was appointed as the storyline inventor. MVP MVP's team went against Dixie's team at the 2014 TNA Lockdown pay-per-view, with Bully Ray as a special guest referee, in which MVP's team won, and MVP became the director of wrestling operations for TNA. He then turned heel on the May 8, 2014 edition of Impact, where he attacked EY Aaron Young, announcing himself as the #1 contender for Slammiversary 12 for Eric Young's World Heavyweight title. But unfortunately, that match didn't happen because MVP got injured. So MVP and Kenny King helped Bobby Lashley win the TNA World Heavyweight title from Eric Young. MVP was removed as the director of wrestling operations, and he was replaced by Kurt Angle. MVP won against Kazuma Sakamoto at the 2014 Bound for Glory pay-per-view. And on the November 5th, 2014 edition of Impact, he lost to Bobby Roode in a TNA World Heavyweight Championship match. He then formed the group The Beatdown Clan in January 2015, with him, Kenny King, Samoa Joe, Low Ki, and Eric Young, helping Bobby Lashley regain the TNA World Heavyweight title from Bobby Roode. And of course, MVP and the Beatdown Clan turned on Bobby Lashley. At the 2015 Lockdown pay-per-view, it was Team Angle versus the Beatdown Clan. Kurt Angle, Austin Aries, Gunner, and Bobby Lashley versus MVP, Samoa Joe, Low Ki, and Kenny King. MVP faced Bobby Lashley for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship but failed to win. The Beatdown Clan in April started a feud against The Rising, Drew Galloway, Drew McIntyre, Eli Drake, now known as LA Knight, and another wrestler, having several matches between these stables until the June 24, 2015 edition of Impact, where the Beatdown Clan defeated the Rising in a 4-on-3 handicap match, forcing the Rising to discontinue. MVP officially left TNA on July 17, 2015. He made an appearance for TNA at the Operation Overdrive Twitch special on September 13, 2019. MVP returned to WWE on the January 22nd, 2018 edition of Monday Night Raw, celebrating Monday Night Raw's 25th anniversary. He then returned to WWE at the 2020 Royal Rumble here in Houston at the Minute Maid Park. He was entry number 12, and he was quickly eliminated by Brock Lesnar. The next night, MVP had a match against Rey Mysterio where he lost. And on the February 10th, 2020 edition of Raw, he brought back his VIP Lounge segment with special guest star Drew McIntyre, the 2020 Royal Rumble winner. During that segment, he turned heel for the first time since 2009, insulting the fans and trying to advise Drew McIntyre to manage him. Of course, MVP came up with the Hurt Business. At the 2020 Money in the Bank pay-per-view, he was scheduled to face R-Truth, but he was replaced by Bobby Lashley, who quickly defeated R-Truth. MVP allied with Bobby Lashley. Then he came up with the Hurt Business: MVP, Bobby Lashley, Cedric Alexander, and Shelton Benjamin. MVP was on Bobby Lashley's side at WrestleMania last year. Bobby Lashley defeated Omos at WrestleMania last year, but MVP turned on Bobby Lashley on the April 4th, 2022 edition of Monday Night Raw, allying himself with Omos. MVP helped Omos defeat Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania Backlash. This led to a 2-on-1 handicap match at Hell in a Cell where Omos and MVP lost to Bobby Lashley, ending their feud. It's hard to believe that my boy MVP is now 50 years old. When my boys of the Heavens Monsters podcast like Serg Dragon and Mike Henry, when they first saw MVP, he was more of a jackass and an asshole to them. I was the only person of the Heavens Monsters podcast thought MVP was cool, like straight up at the beginning. But after MVP ended that 20-week losing streak against Big Show in that last man standing match, all my boys started to like MVP. And to be honest with you, I like MVP better as a heel than a babyface. I mean, he's cool as a babyface, but I like him more as a heel. I always like MVP as a heel. Since day one, since his early WWE days, I always like MVP as a heel. MVP, thank you for everything that you've done in your wrestling career for over 21 years. I'm so happy that he's back in the WWE. But his early run in the WWE was the shit. Man, MVP deserves his flowers, ladies and gentlemen. And I hope one day he becomes a WWE champion. And with that being said, that's going to wrap up my recap of the Rockets versus the Spurs, the Warriors versus the Kings, the Heat versus the Celtics, and the Raptors versus the Bulls. And celebrating the 50th birthday of MVP. If you're new here, hit subscribe and hit that notification bell for my next Rockets, Bulls, Warriors, and Heat rant. Give this video a thumbs up. Leave your comment down below. What are your thoughts about MVP now a half a century? And what are your favorite matches of MVP, either from WWE or even in TNA? I'll catch you tomorrow for a recap of today's college football game between the BYU Cougars and the Texas Longhorns. Until then, go Golden State Warriors. Go Chicago Bulls. Go Miami Heat. Go Houston Rockets. And happy 50th birthday to Montel Vontavoius Porter, MVP. Ballin'. Play stupid games. Win stupid prizes. No more talk.